We would never treat our friend or daughter like this. So let this be your reminder that your worthiness is never up for grabs. You are always worthy, you are always loved, and you are always enough. Welcome to the Permission Slip Podcast, where I, empowerment coach, mindset expert, and holistic nutritionist Carmen share with you the tools, conversations, and resources you need to write your own permission slip, take massive action, and become obsessed with your own life. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Permission Slip Podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm so excited to bring you this quickie episode. This is something that I want you to really get curious about in your life. Really dive in, because the quality of our life is determined by the quality of the questions that we ask. So here is my question to you. How compassionate are you with yourself? When you perceive that you've made a mistake or a failure, or you're struggling with something that you've maybe even struggled with before, are you compassionate with yourself? Or do you start making that perceived failure mean something about your worthiness, about your enoughness, about your lovability? Because here's the thing, our greatest gift that we can give ourselves as women is your own self-compassion. Often we treat the parts of ourselves that we perceive as negative or bad as an inconvenience. We try to push them away. So on the flip side of that, we're often telling ourselves that we are only good enough, worthy, or lovable if we are producing, if we're strong, if we're creative, if we're achieving. And that is just not true. We would never treat a friend or our daughter like this. So let this be your reminder that your worthiness is never up for grabs. And no matter what you do, and no matter what season of life that you are in, you are always loved, you are always worthy, and you are always enough. Seriously, this is so big. This came up in Flow Academy today on our group coaching, and Flow Academy is our holistic life coaching program for leaders, entrepreneurs, and coaches. It only opens for enrollment twice a year. The next enrollment is going to be in April. You can find all the details with the link in the bio. This is for you if you really want to get to that next level of leadership, that next level of entrepreneurship, or that next level of coaching, or even work under me as a holistic life coach. There's an opportunity and space available for you on that as well. But this idea of self-compassion came from, we were doing a review of our repeated thoughts. So experiences, thoughts, emotions, and responses. And something that came up often was the pressure we were putting on ourselves, the judgment, the comparison, the not good enough, that we were holding ourselves to some societal standard, comparing to someone else, basing it off of someone else's reaction, and then deciding if we were worthy or not because of that. But what if we could step back from all of that and just make the commitment to ourselves that we were going to be compassionate to ourselves? Now, self-compassion is defined as extending compassion to oneself in instances of perceived inadequacy, failure, or general suffering. So when we're perceiving that a part of ourself is negative or bad, or something that we don't necessarily ideally want to be happening in our life, then we're turning that around to mean something about ourselves. And it really doesn't mean anything about ourselves. Like I said, we are always loved, we are always enough, we are always worthy. So how do we get to this place? It's really about the steps for any growth change is the same. It just takes a little bit different work. So the growth change model is really awareness, belief, and then culture. So first of all, you become aware of what's happening. So you become aware of the times when you're putting pressure on yourself. You become aware of the times when you're judging and criticizing yourself, when you're feeling less than, when you're making yourself inadequate, when you're putting your worthiness on the table. And again, it is never, ever, ever up for grabs. So you become aware. And then you start changing, you start taking action so you can actually build a belief inside yourself that that is not the truth. Results don't mean anything about you. They're simply just information. They do not change your worthiness. And if we can start going through life and just taking experiences and getting curious and just saying things like, that's interesting, and not making it mean anything about us, failure is just an opportunity to learn. And the most successful people learn. That means that they fail, but they don't allow it to stop them because they don't make it mean something about them. They don't put their worthiness, their enoughness, their lovability up on the table for grabs. They keep it because they sit. And if they get in that negative spiral, they ask themselves, what am I experiencing right now? What do I need right now? Because honestly, the fear-based, the ego-based self is going to say that self-compassion will make you weak and vulnerable. And that's far from the truth. Self-compassion is a reliable source of inner strength that builds courage and enhances your resiliency, especially when we are faced with difficulties or challenge. And really, research shows that people that are self-compassionate are better able to cope with difficult situations, and they're happier and they're more fulfilled in life. Now, sometimes people might say that being compassionate to ourselves might be self-indulgent, but it's actually the opposite. It actually leads to greater long-term health because stress and pressure and judgment and questioning our enoughness or worthiness or lovability, that adds to our plate of chronic stress. And we have enough chronic stress on our plate right now. And self-compassion is not an excuse-making behavior. Self-compassion really is saying, yes, I made a mistake. Yes, I failed. Yes, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. However, I'm just looking at it as information, and I am getting curious, and I'm seeing what I can do next time. Because you know what self-criticism is not? It is not an effective motivator. And a lot of people might think that. But self-criticism is not a motivator. It actually undermines your self-confidence, and it really feeds into your fear-based ego self. Self-compassionate people have high personal standards, and they don't beat themselves up when they fail. They do compassionate things. So in Flow Academy, we talked about a few things that we could do in order to be more self-compassionate. And I shared a couple with you. So it's just becoming aware, right? And then changing your belief by taking some action, building belief. And then over time, it becomes easier and easier because it starts being part of your culture, just your everyday and who you are. When things happen, you don't ask, why is this happening to me? It's happening for you. You discover the lessons and you get curious. And sometimes we don't see exactly why it's happening right then and right there. But believe me, it always comes later. So what are some things you can do in the moment? And this is how I want to wrap up, because I always like the actionable takeaways that you can take away from this. And as always, I want to hear from you. So please tag me on Instagram at Carmen Oling, at Permission Slip Community, and let me know what you took away from this. But a handful of things you can do. Take a moment, sit straight with your spine and neck in alignment, and take 3 full, deep, long breaths, and make your out breath longer than your in breath. And this will help calm your nervous system. You can hold the pressure points in your hand to help calm your nervous system. I like to squeeze, in that fleshy area right between your thumb and your first finger. The other thing that you can do is sit straight in your chair and just notice how you're sitting. Make your sits bones or your booty equal. And then what I want you to do is just take your hands and alternate, grabbing the flesh of your thighs back and forth. This calms your nervous system as well. These are all somatic techniques where you're using your senses to bring yourself back to your body and out of your head. You can write an encouraging letter to yourself. You can take out your jar that has all those letters and those cards and those thank you notes and those precious moments that you've saved, which FYI, if you're not saving those, save those. So in moments like this, you can take those out. You can remind yourself of how far you've come. You could paint or you could write your feelings out. You can turn on Florence and the Machine, shake it out, and you could just jump around and shake it out for the 3 minutes and 34 seconds. I don't know exactly how long it is. It's something like that. Moving energy. Oftentimes when we get stuck in that low vibration of criticism and judgment and questioning our worthiness, we're not moving. Energy is within us. That stream of well-being is within us and it flows all the same. We can allow it or resist it. And if you shake it out and move it and jump around just for even a minute, we did that today on the Call and Flow Academy. And I asked how everybody felt. We did it right at the beginning, from where they were when we first started to after we did it. And the words were inspired, energized, focused, excited. Yeah, it just completely shifted. And we did it for 1 minute. You can go to bed early, remind yourself that tomorrow's a new day, and see 3 things that you are grateful for today. You can remind yourself that you're safe and it's okay to be feeling your feelings right now. You can speak your feelings out loud. This is a big one. This was something that I always held back, but speaking your feelings out loud in a safe space helps you take your power back and switch back into that higher vibration. So as I end today, I just want you to really, really, really think about this and get curious, because get curious about how compassionate you are being with yourself, because we often hold ourselves to high standards. I mean, I know I do. And you also have this pull to move upward and onward, and even exceeding your own expectations. And there's nothing bad about having high standards. And that builds so much self-confidence, and it shows other people how aspirational it is, and it brings them along the way. But sometimes what we want and those aspirations that we have for ourselves, they don't come to reality. And so again, there's a perceived failure or a lack of results. And we often become our harshest critic. Thinking am I good enough for this? Am I meant for this? Am I worthy of this? But self-compassion, like I said, is the greatest gift a woman can give herself. It's the tool that bridges the gap between the vision of what we want and the reality of where we are right now. And it's really a tool I know that's changed my life. It's been so incredible to sit back and just remind myself that my worthiness is never up for grabs. Neither is yours. I am enough. I am worthy, and I am loved. And so are you.